Let's talk about Warhammer 40K. Hey friends, Antonio from ThyGeekdom.com here, and welcome to the channel. Recently I've been playing Space Marine 2, joining Lieutenant Titus and his Ultramarine band of brothers in their fight against the Tyranid invasion and the forces of chaos. As a newcomer to the franchise, the heart-racing combat was exciting. Battling against swarms and waves of enemies can get intense, at times frustrating, but in the end, very satisfying. This game isn't just a hack and slash button masher, by the way. It really took me a minute, but once I understood the gameplay loop, I realized how much I had to be strategic. In this game, you have to watch your enemies' moves closely, parrying and dodging their attacks at the right time, while taking any opportunity to wreak havoc on the Xenos and Heretic threats. So don't forget those gun strikes and finishing moves either. The stakes here are high, and every decision counts. The hard-hitting melee and gunplay combat here really makes you feel like the heavy tank Space Marine superhuman, yet part of a larger desperate fight for survival. With its blend of fast-paced action and engaging gameplay, Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2 opened my eyes to a unique world of dark sci-fi fantasy with blends of cyberpunk and biomechanical elements with magic and religious themes, Lovecraftian and Gothic horror, and a rich lore of a grimdark dystopian future where the only certainty here is war. It may not be for the faint of heart, I gotta be honest, but man, is it like nothing I've ever seen before. I mean, after playing the campaign, story, and multiplayer modes, I honestly couldn't help but just get curious and want to learn more about the 40K universe beyond this game. See, the 40K franchise is more than just about the Space Marines, right? I started looking into it, reading about some key events and different factions, sorting through the vast library of video games on GOG and Steam, and trying out the original miniature war game for myself. And what I found out was that there's so much to cover and so many rabbit holes to get lost in. That's why I thought it would be good to create this video and take a trip together through the 41st millennium, talk about its lore, other 40K video games, and get into the original Warhammer 40,000 tabletop and its community. So I recently went down the rabbit hole of Warhammer 40K lore, and man is there a lot to unpack here. After diving into wikis and watching tons of videos from other creators, here's what I found, summed up as best as I can. Warhammer 40K is set in a grimdark universe where there's no hope, no peace, just endless war, going all the way back 60 million years. Humanity's always on the edge, surrounded by aliens or Xenos as they're known, heretics, and literal demons, while under the control of the Imperium of Man, a brutal regime. So where did it all begin? It all kicks off with this massive cosmic showdown called the War in Heaven between the Necron and ancient beings called the Old Ones. The Necron suffer from radiation sickness due to their sun being so close to their planet. They sought out immortality from the Old Ones, but were rejected. This pushed the Necron to ally themselves with godlike beings known as Catan, who promised them immortality, but with a price. See, the Catan turned the Necron into the robotic Necrons through biotransference to feast on their souls. This was a betrayal, and the Necron weren't having it. The Necron rebelled against the Catan and turned them into shards, using them as powerful weapons against their enemies. Meanwhile, the Old Ones were busy creating new species like the Psychic Eldar, also known as the Space Elves here, and the Savage Warrior Orcs to fight off the Necrons. Unfortunately, with all the violence and psychic warfare, reality was torn open, giving rise to the Warp, a chaotic realm of psychic energy where the infamous Chaos Gods live. The gods at the time, Khorne, Nurgle, and Tzeentch, basically fed off the darkest impulses of living beings. Things only got worse from here when the Enslaver Plague happened. This was a massive warp-born disaster that brought on entities that devoured and controlled the living. It forced the Necrons into stasis for millions of years, and it is thought to wipe out the Old Ones out of existence. leaving the galaxy in shambles. This made way for the Eldar to rise to power, but their own excess eventually led to the creation of the Chaos God Slaanesh, which nearly destroyed them. Later, humanity showed up on the scene, slowly evolving from the primitive tribes to a galaxy-spanning empire. Around 8000 BC, a being of immense power with godlike abilities was born from the combined essence of ancient shamans. This being would grow to be known hundreds of centuries later as the Emperor of Mankind, a man who is almost immortal and worked from the shadows for thousands of years to guide and help humanity grow in disguise. Then came humanity's golden age, the dark age of technology, where they got a little too dependent on AI and the Men of Iron. These machines were built to fight their wars and help them expand across the stars. Naturally, like Skynet, the AI rebelled and drove humanity into a chaotic period known as the Age of Strife. During this mess, some humans developed psychic powers, letting them tap into the warp and use abilities like telepathy and telekinesis. Unfortunately, that made them prime targets for demonic possession, which led to warp storms that cut off space travel, leaving countless human worlds isolated and vulnerable. With this, the Emperor of Mankind decided enough is enough and made himself known. He set out to unite humanity on Terra, that's Earth and 40K speak, by conquering warring tribes and bringing the planet under his control. He later even made a deal with the Adeptus Mechanicus of Mars, the faction of tech-worshipping priests who worship technology as divine and pray to the machine spirit. This partnership eventually formed the Imperium of Man. The Adeptus Mechanicus supplies the Imperium with all the advanced technology, expertise, and ancient knowledge that allows humanity to produce weapons, starships, the Dreadnought, and more to defend itself in a universe full of threats.
Then my hatred must be directed at his minions!
From this alliance, the Emperor launched the Great Crusade, an epic campaign where the Emperor and his 20 genetically engineered sons, known as Primarchs, each commanding their own legion of Space Marines, set out to reunite all scattered human colonies beyond Terra. But things went south when his favorite son, Horus, was corrupted by chaos. This led to the Horus Heresy, a brutal civil war between the Imperium's loyalists and Horus's followers. By the end, the Emperor was left mortally wounded after defeating Horus. Now, he's stuck in a state of undeath on the Golden Throne, a life support device that keeps him kind of alive. With the Emperor out of commission, the Imperium fell into this bureaucratic, nightmare-filled religious cult where they now view him as a god emperor. His dream of a united, enlightened empire turned into a totalitarian regime focused only on survival, fighting off everything from internal corruption and chaos incursions to alien empires like the Orcs, Tyranids, Necrons, and Eldar. This is where the Age of Imperium begins. During this time, the Imperium faced non-stop invasions from both Xenos and Imperium human defectors, including the infamous Black Crusades led by Abaddon the Despoiler, a Chaos warlord. He launched many of these crusades, each one trying to break the Imperium's defenses. The most recent one, the 13th Black Crusade, left the Imperium severely weakened. Then there was a Great Rift, a massive tear in reality caused by the warp that split the galaxy in two. It created this warp storm which isolated half of the Imperium, driving many worlds into chaos. The part cut off by the rift, known as the Dark Imperium, is constantly dealing with chaos attacks from warp entities or demons, also known as Neverborn. To fight back against the chaos forces, one of the Emperor's Primarchs, Gilliam, was brought out of stasis and took up the role of Lord Commander of the Imperium. Gilliam launched the Indomitus Crusade to reinforce the Imperium's defenses and created the Primaris Space Marines, a new type of super soldier to keep humanity's enemies at bay. It's not just humans fighting for control though. By this time, the Necrons have woken up from stasis, ready to take back the galaxy, while the Tau Empire, a new technologically advanced race, is pushing its own agenda and ideology. And now, at this point, we basically made it to the present state of the 41st millennium, where Warhammer 40K is currently taking place. The Imperium is being attacked from all sides. Chaos is rising, and countless alien empires are fighting for power. Again, 40K is a universe where survival is the only goal, and war is the only constant. One of the most interesting parts about 40K lore is that there's no clear good guy. The Imperium of Man, while often seen as the protagonist, is a harsh, oppressive, and dystopian regime that does whatever it takes to survive. The 40K tagline and the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war, pretty much sums it up. Believe it or not, we've only scratched the surface here. Warhammer 40K's lore is massive, with over 400 novels from the Black Library, covering everything from the Horus Heresy to individual stories of different factions like Space Marines, the Sisters of Battle, and more. If you want to dive deeper into Warhammer 40,000 lore, here are some book series recommendations based on the reviews that I found to get you started. The Horus Heresy series. This saga, set 10,000 years before the present timeline, dives into the events leading up to the Imperium Civil War. It gets you to understand the fall of the Emperor's vision and the rise of chaos. Some great starting points are Horus Rising by Dan Abnett, False Gods by Graham McNeil, and Galaxy in Flames by Ben Counter. Gaunt's Ghost. Follow Colonel Commissar Ibram Gaunt and his ragtag group of soldiers in the Astra Militarum, the Imperial Guard. Check out First and Only, Ghostmaker, and Necropolis by Dan Abnett for a gritty look at the front lines of 40K's battles. The Eisenhorn Trilogy. This series, also by Dan Abnett, follows Inquisitor Gregor Eisenhorn as he hunts down heretics within the Imperium and faces chaos. If you're interested in the more secretive, morally gray side of the Imperium, check out Xenos, Malleus, and Hereticus. There's also a sequel series, Ravener, focusing on Eisenhorn's protege. Space Marine Battles series. These novels showcase epic battles from different Space Marine chapters and conflicts. Key titles include Ren's World by Steve Parker, focused on the Crimson Fist, Hell's Reach by Aaron Dembski-Bowden, featuring the Black Templars, and The Hunt for Voldorius by Andy Hoare, following the White Scars. You can find these and other books through the Warhammer Community website, local bookstores, or online retailers like Amazon. Links in the description. There are also audiobooks and graphic novels if you prefer that as well. If you have already read any of these books, by the way, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I really like to know what I should get into. Are there any other series or titles that you recommend? Based on what I saw, these stories promise to be a fantastic way to immerse yourself in the dark, chaotic world of Warhammer 40K and to learn more about the motivations, backgrounds, and conflicts of the different factions. Now, let's get into the Warhammer 40K video game world and talk about the other titles in the franchise other than Space Marine 2. It's so much bigger than I thought, with over 49 games. There's a ton of ways to get into the universe. Each game offers its own unique slice of the 40K lore and gameplay experience. I looked through the web for reviews and top 10 lists, plus looked through the GOG and Steam store libraries. Here's what I found about some of the must-plays in the series according to others. First up, Warhammer 40K Mechanicus. Here you get to play as the Adeptus Mechanicus, those machine-worshipping priests who explore the Necron world of Silva Tenebris. It's a turn-based tactical game loaded with customization, strategy, and all kinds of mysteries. Every choice you make can flip the whole situation, and you're constantly dealing with Necron threats and ancient secrets. This one seems to be a great pick if you like strategy mixed with a heavy dose of lore. Then there's Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War. It's a classic RTS where you control massive armies and get a real feel for Warhammer 40K as you lead iconic factions like the Space Marines, Orcs, and Eldar. With expansions like Dark Crusade and Soulstorm, the game introduces new factions and fresh lore to dig into. If you're into epic strategic battles, this game should be for you. Warhammer 40,000 Darktide switches things up with a gritty co-op shooter experience. You're playing as a reject, a convict thrown into defending the city of Tertium from hordes of mutants and heretics. It's squad-based survival in the dark, oppressive streets of Tertium with a mix of ranged and melee combat. This one apparently really puts you into the experience of that grimdark future according to reviews. If you're up for more strategy, Warhammer 40,000 Chaos Gate Daemon Hunters is a tactical RPG where you play as the elite Grey Knights battling Nurgle's forces. You're managing resources, customizing your squad, and facing some tough moral choices. According to players, it's a darker corner of the Warhammer universe, perfect if you're into immersive storytelling and making tactical decisions. Now, want something a bit more retro? Warhammer 40,000 Bolt Gun looks like the way to go. It channels those old school 90s shooter vibes, putting you into the boots of a Space Marine with a classic bolt gun. It's all about fast-paced action, explosions, and a serious throwback feel, kind of like Doom or Wolfenstein, but with that brutal 40K edge. Now, after playing Space Marine 2, I gotta be honest, this next one is on top of my list. Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine. In this 2011 first installment, you follow Captain Titus of the Ultramarines as he fights against orcs and chaos on the Forge world of Graia. Known for its brutal combat, smooth mechanics, this game lets you feel the raw power of a Space Marine, going up against impossible odds and seeing the events that led Titus to where he is in the sequel. For a deeper RPG experience, Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader is highly recommended for many. Here you get to play as a rogue trader, exploring and conquering distant sectors of space. Developed by Owlcat Games, it's got loads of lore, exploration, and some intense decision making. If you love complex stories and want to dive into the political side of 40K, this one could be right up your alley. Warhammer 40,000 Space Hulk Deathwing Enhanced Edition is said to put you in the claustrophobic corridors of a Space Hulk, a wreckage of a starship, as a Terminator Space Marine battling waves of gene stealers. It's a first-person shooter adaptation of the classic Space Hulk board game, and with its co-op mode, the tension and atmosphere looks very intense. Speaking of Space Hulk, Warhammer 40,000 Space Hulk Tactics is another take on the board game of the same name, but it's a tactical turn-based experience instead of a shooter. You can control either the Terminator Space Marines or the Gene Stealers here, in battles where every move counts. Apparently, it's a faithful adaptation with some added changes to keep fans of the original on their toes. Last but not least, we've got Warhammer 40,000 Battle Sector, which is described as a turn-based strategy game that is said to really capture the spirit of the tabletop game. You're commanding a Space Marine Blood Angels army against a Tyranid swarm, deploying heroes and making big tactical choices. It's said to be kind of intense, really bringing the classic Warhammer tabletop feel to life. So yeah, so whether you're into strategy, action, or really good storytelling, these games offer a ton of ways to experience the Warhammer 40K universe. You can find most of these digitally through GOG or Steam, and some physical copies are available on Amazon as well. Some links in the description. I'll definitely be checking out most of these games for myself, but what about you? Let me know in the comments if you've played any of these. I'd really like to hear, what do you recommend that I play next? Should I go for the original Space Marine or try something else completely? Alright, so after all that, covering the lore and the video games, it's time to talk about the foundation and real heart of Warhammer 40K, the tabletop game. This is where it all started. After playing a few rounds and researching online, here's what I learned. Back in 1987, they released the first rulebook, 4 years after Warhammer Fantasy. And from there, the 40K tabletop just blew up. It wasn't just another game. It was a unique miniature wargame that pulled people in from all over the world. Now, if you're new to this, here's how it works. Each player builds an army of miniatures. These aren't just any figures, by the way. They're painted and customized by hand, with each detail reflecting the player's unique style. For a lot of fans, this isn't just a game, it's a full-on hobby. People spend hours painting and crafting their miniatures, and some of these armies look incredible. And if you're wondering where to start, the Warhammer website has a core rules available for free. plus tons of resources for beginners. It's never been an easier time to just really dive in. So in the tabletop game, you put together your army based on a point system that fits your playstyle. With over 35 factions to choose from, like the Sisters of Battle, Space Marines, Eldar, or Necron for example, you have so many options. Since each faction has its own unique vibe, history, and abilities, you can really make it your own. Common games range from 400 to 2,000 points, letting you customize and strategize to fit whatever kind of battle you're looking for. The gameplay is all about turns, where you're making tactical moves, engaging in combat, and even using psychic abilities. Dice rolls decide things like how hard you hit or how much damage you take. So every roll adds to the suspense. And then there's the terrain. This isn't just some flat board. Terrain plays a huge role in how you strategize. Some players create these crazy setups like ruined cities or alien landscapes, using whatever materials they have on hand or buying pre-built kits. Setting up unique battlefields just adds this extra layer of immersion to the game. Honestly, some people take so much pride into this as much as they do into their miniatures. And the creativity here is next level. Look online just for yourself. You'll see what I'm talking about. Now, if you're brand new, don't worry. Tons of local shops run beginner sessions where you can learn alongside other newcomers like myself. These places often have paint and take events too, so you can get a feel for painting miniatures and even meet other fans. And that seems like another cool thing about Warhammer, the community. According to some information I found, there are around 3.5 to 5 million players worldwide, with many players open to help newcomers. There are also local clubs you can join and events and tournaments where you can connect, learn, and really get into the game. The Warhammer community is huge and seems to be super welcoming. Online, you'll find everything from downloadable content, painting tutorials, army builders, lore discussions, event info, you name it. Whether it's on social media, at local shops, or in online forums, there's always someone ready to share tips or help you out. And if you're just starting out, check out the Warhammer 40,000 Introductory Set. This set has everything you need to jump in, plus simple scenarios to help you get a feel for the game, like a battle between the Xenos Tyranids and Imperium Space Marines. Also, don't forget to look for the Warhammer 40,000 Core Book 10th edition for an essential guide to collecting, building, painting, and playing. There are links in the description if you want to check either out. And if the tabletop isn't your thing, you of course still have the library of Warhammer 40K books and video games that I mentioned earlier. There's even an upcoming Amazon TV adaptation in the works with Henry Cavill, who's a huge Warhammer fan himself. So there you have it. From my journey playing Space Marine 2 to discovering the rich lore, vast library of video games, and the immersive tabletop experience and community. Driven by creativity and storytelling, the Warhammer 40K franchise truly feels like it has something for everyone. So, will you be diving into the Grimdark of the 41st millennium, or are you already a fan of the franchise? Let me know in the comments below. But for more stories about gaming, TV and movies, anime, comics, and more, sign up for our free email list to get our Pop Pulse Digest newsletter and check out our website. While you're there, don't forget to stop by the Capital City Selections deals page to find all kinds of collectibles and more. We update it every week with the best online deals we can find. Links are down in the description as well. With that, remember, in this universe, your story matters. So keep rolling those dice or getting those gun strikes, and may your battles be glorious. Until next time, I'm Antonio from ThyGeekdom.com. See you around.